The Chisholm Trail by Madeline Ray. I actually live along the Chisholm Trail in my hometown of Round Rock, Texas. I even went to Chisholm Trail Middle School. The Chisholm Trail was arguably the major route for livestock out of Texas. It was only used for 17 years, from 1867 to 1884, but the longhorn cattle that were driven north along it was a steady source of income that ultimately helped Texas recover from the Civil War. Before we dive into more about the Chisholm Trail, a little historical context. The early 1860s were dominated by the American Civil War. It was fought between the United States and the Confederate States. Following this, the Second Industrial Revolution began to take place, which ended up moving families from farmland to cities to work in factories. After the Civil War had ended, Texas in particular had countless longhorn cattle, which was its only potential asset. However, no market was available for this, so Missouri and Kansas had closed their borders to cattle from Texas 10 years prior due to an illness they carried called Texas fever. The East began having a demand for meat, so many men, including one named Joseph McCoy from Illinois, tried to supply it with Texas cattle. He decided in 1867 to lay a siding on the edge of the quarantine area in Kansas and started building pens and facilities, telling the Texas cowmen that a cattle market was available. It was created in 1867 and lasted until 1884. Its exact route isn't certain, but it is known that the trail originated in south of San Antonio, ran north across Oklahoma, and ended in Abilene, Kansas. So now, who specifically created it? Well, the idea and original execution came from Joseph McCoy, as I mentioned, but the tracks were made by a Scotch-Cherokee merchant, Jesse Chisholm, hence the name Chisholm Trail, who began hauling goods to Indian camps 220 miles south of his post. The route was merely known as the Trail, or Kansas Trail, or Abilene Trail, or McCoy's Trail, but the Texas cowmen ended up giving Chisholm's name to the entire trail from the Rio Grande to central Kansas. For the intended user, its intended use was for individuals to drive cattle from ranches in Texas to Kansas, as well as traders. In the year of 1884, the Chisholm Trail ceased to exist for travel, as per the 1885 Kansas quarantine law, due to the Texas fever the cattle carried. It was then replaced by the Texas Trail in the 19th century. The Chisholm Trail now serves as a historical monument throughout Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, although it's obviously not in the same condition as it originally was. It's a modernized road now, like every other one in this day and age. However, there is a physical monument, which is a slab of stone, commemorating it in the central Texas area in a museum in downtown Salado. The article is important because it illuminated how a single route for commerce was able to lift the great state of Texas out of its post-Civil War poverty. It also serves as a cultural reminder of the classic American cowboy legend. The Chisholm Trail as an artifact is also incredibly important to me, and I was interested in it even before this project. It's definitely important to me because I grew up upon it. I drove to school and HEB on the actual Chisholm Trail itself every day, but I actually never considered its significance like I did whenever researching for this project. Since I was always interested in delving deeper into it, as it is a large part of U.S. history and the history of my hometown, I'm so glad I got to because it's incredibly significant and greatly impacted Texas economically and socially, including where I live in Round Rock, Texas. Again, thank you for watching and listening to this presentation about the Chisholm Trail, and I also really hope that you enjoyed learning about this just as much as I did, delving back into it, because it's in my hometown of Round Rock, Texas. Here are the sources I consulted with, including the images and the information.